absolute pleasure to see you today. And we are going to go through quite a bit. So I'm so excited to hear the gossip of today's events. Woohoo! You did listen to me. There was a guy who's done loads of these petitions, some form of specialist. He done a bit of a spiel. But he emphasised and emphasised and emphasised and emphasised the costs. And even the judge got fed up with it and said the petitioner has paid £5,000 into this court, right? Basically. So, yeah, but it's going to be a lot more than that, right? Just to let everyone know, that the judge has asked, she said, I'm asking you if you assess your costs because they need to crowdfund it. And then I'll speak to the petitioner, Mr. Moore, about what he's going to do. And I've said we're going to crowdfund it. And I said, but this is basically, what they try and do is bankrupt people so they can't then stand in an election, right? One way or the other, they've got you out of politics. And it's an absolute disgrace. So, right, we're the only group of people fighting for you. And I actually said that in the High Court today. So the first thing to say, it was actually a High Court hearing. It wasn't in chambers. There is a key point of news there, and that is that there were two Americans sitting in the gallery from the American embassy who made it known, I believe, to the usher that they are keeping an eye on the case. Right? They didn't speak to me. They spoke to someone else. The whole point of this is our letters to Secretary of State Rubio. In my opinion, because we work as a team, they've gone, you need to look at this case, right? So we've sent them letters, recorded delivery to the Secretary of State and said there is severe cheating going on in England, and that's why we got basically a communist government, and it's because they're cheating. So that is a massive positive, right? So there are people watching. So part of their argument, first off, was you can't change the petition once it's been put in there, blah, 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 blah. That's what they was putting over, right? And then this other guy came up and said, well, we put an application in and we changed the name. She said, well, he's just said you can't change the petition. So now you're saying that you've put an application in and changed the name. You're not, either you're allowed to do it or you're not. Right? So she was good, the judge, right? And he was like, and I thought, here you go. Watch this, right? Wait till it's my turn. And then the police didn't have a lot to say for themselves, so they sat back. But what they was really pushing on was costs. And I've got to be honest with you, I think it started to annoy the judge. But basically what I said was, who we are, I said, so I am the petitioner, Graham Harry Moore, and I represent two organisations. One is as the president of the English Constitution Society, and the second as the English Constitution Party. We represent disabled people and pensioners, right? So people literally that have been abused by the state. She didn't like that, but I said it, right? You should not be looking for tick boxes or dates or whatever. If something's slightly out or not slightly out, you should give leeway to the litigant in person and always have the end goal in mind, which is justice, not the process, right? So it must be about justice. And I explained that to her and she accepted that. She's looking at that. And I don't think the other side, the other respondents, was aware that I even knew about that, right? So Ashby versus White 1703, and we are governed by consent, and those votes must be allocated to who we voted for. Now, part of my future submissions, and people listening to this must listen carefully to what I'm saying, because this one's going to smack them straight on the chin, right? Misallocation and misrepresentation of your vote. The respondent for the returning officer, the legal professional, stood up and said, a single electorate, her ladyship, can bring an election petition. People don't know that. but you can only do that if you vote, right? A single electorate can bring a petition. The point I'm trying to make to you is this, that in 2011, we had a referendum in this country, and we strongly, I think it was 57 or 67%, voted against alternative vote. And what we're seeing ad hoc by communists in this country is them deploying an alternative vote system against your wishes by allocating your vote to their party and not the party of your choice, right? And that is highly unlawful. It is a double whammy because we had a referendum on it, right? Now, the reason why we as a nation are now governed by communists is because they cheated in the general election of 2024. We know they did that. And people haven't got the bottle to bring a petition like this. Anyone who is in that court today, and we had a fantastic, full, right, gallery. The judge was looking at the gallery, right? Wonderful people. I could not be happier. By the way, very well behaved. Didn't put a foot out of line, right? Is everyone enjoying this, by the way? It's the respondents that put all these dates forward, right? And she said, let me just make sure this is clear. This is the petitioners, Graham Moore's petition, right? Lawyers are two a penny, right? We can get you anywhere from anywhere. You can be swapped about. He can't, right? So the dates are going to be what he wants, not what you want, right? And if any one of the people in this court now can't attend, get someone else. But he has to attend. So we're going by his dates, right? So I was happy with that, right? So we set out what we could do. She said, are you happy to get electronic communication when you're out of the country? And obviously you'll have to be working on it. I said, I haven't got a problem with that. It's whether I've got direct access to do things. So she then said, right, we're all in agreement that the petitioner can respond, and you've all got his email address. You can do this, blah blah, and they're all like, yeah, nodding dogs, yeah, we'll do as I told. Said, because they droned on and on and on. They're trying to frighten the life out of me with costs, right? And I've said we'll crowdfund it. By the way, people, this could come to a hell of a lot of money, right? And she said, as long as you understand. I said, I understand the risk, my lady. I said, the issue I've got is someone's got to stand up to this. Someone has to stand up to electoral corruption, basically, and it's me. That's it. What can I do? So we're pushing this forward. So she said, what we'll do is we'll get these to put their costs. And she said, I'm doing that basically not to frighten you. So for your crowdfunding, you can say, we need to hit this target, right? And she said, then you can start promoting it. I said, well, part of the problem that we've got is there is a news blackout on this petition. And she went, no, this petition is listed. And I went, no, Mum, I'm not. I said, I'm not saying you or the High Court have blacked it out. I'm not saying that, in effect, there's a D notice or anything like that. I'm saying that the mainstream media will not talk about this. And I said, that affects our crowdfunding, right? And they know that, right? Basically, all of this went forward. So she and I said, and that's why it's very important that we actually get a trial date, and we need to advertise the petition. I said, people are coming forward telling us 6-7 figures, right? People that are telling us that they didn't receive the leaflets and they did vote for us. I said, once it's advertised in Runcorn and Hillsby, I said, it's about the constituents. I said, we haven't got some wishy-washy policy documents as our manifesto. Our manifesto is the English Constitution, right? So we actually represent the rule of law, right? What we're going to do is, she said, you'll come back up to the High Court for a day, and these other submissions are going to be heard, and you'll have a chance to argue against it, put your own skeleton argument in, your own arguments of why they're wrong, etc. We'll listen to you. But she said the most important thing is she said, and again, she said it's not your issue. It's the issue of this level of judge, right? It's not just one judge. She said, I am going to be your hearing judge, right? But there's another one of me. So I've got to fit myself in. And she said, so I'm telling you from October the 2nd, right? So that's roughly when the petition hearing is going to be in Runcorn. She actually said the 2nd. I've looked at a document that's just come back and it said from the 1st onwards. She said the 2nd, right? She then said, there's another High Court judge with me, right? So we both listened to this petition, right? 2 High Court judges in Runcorn, right? And then she brought up the Runcorn and Lincoln Railway. This made me laugh. She said, I've noted that you've made, this is it, the respondents. You've said. You want to go to the Runcorn County Court? She said, it's been gone for years. She said, I used to be a judge there. It's closed down. She said, who put that in there? Your ladyship. I said, I don't use AI. She was like, good. She's just sort of looking at the others, and they're all sitting there. And then some of the gallery said, like the other Susan and Barristers are all on their AI in the thing, and it's me saying I don't use AI, I use books, right? And I was like, so that was quite funny. So it was fantastic to get the support. Why is it important in a situation like that? Because the judge sees that there's public interest, right? It's not. She's like, well, hang on a minute. I've got a packed gallery here. Right? What they're trying to do is put pressure on us and the court. She was basically saying, oh, that's the other thing she said. I kept going. I think she got a bit annoyed because they kept talking about costs. And I said, we should have access to justice. These are constitution and common law rights, right? And what did she say? She said, I just want to also, just make sure you're all aware of this. She said to the court, tell me if I'm wrong in saying this. I'm sure she said this. She said, it is at the discretion of the judge. All right. So she said, I'm the one who says costs are not, and I'm the one who says whether costs are reasonable. I'm the one, or we could allocate costs in a different way. She said, that's basically down to me or down to the judges. But it was the justice element that she was keen on, and she said this is an election petition, so it is a common law right and a constitutional right, which I emphasised. Maybe if the Yanks get hold of it and get us some big publicity. Well, again, the Americans were there, so just to let you know, they made themselves, as far as I'm aware, they didn't come and speak to me. But they made, I think there was 2 Americans there. They made themselves known to the usher. I think they wanted to take a picture of the court and the thing. And as far as I know, they basically said, we're very interested in this case, right? So again, and we still need you to the written out letter to Rubio, right? We need you to send them to us, because the more letters they get, when I say something to you and ask you to do something, right, many of you actually do it, right? I sent, on behalf of the English Constitution Party, I sent a letter and a petition to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, in America. The particular type of letter I sent was a legal document letter to the State Department. It cost 50 quid to send it. Right, and I know it was sent on the Thursday. I know he received it on the Tuesday. I know that the State Department have read it, and they had a sealed copy of the petition. The country has been taken over. And I did read from this book yesterday and said that we have the right, in the English common law, to purge communists and fascists from our civil service, right? Now, it's gone further than that. They've taken over the whole country, and that's why we're very nearly at war with Russia, right? Russia is no longer a communist nation, right? They are Orthodox Christians. And remember, the Bolsheviks slaughtered 70 million Russians, right? I ain't got a problem with Russia at all, or the Russian people, right? And I'm English, not British. Right? Luke, the Americans also spoke to Charlie outside. Oh, did they? So we're going to have to increase the GoFundMe. So I want to know now, has there been, has anyone heard about this election petition on the mainstream media, on the BBC, ITV, Sky News, GB News, anything like that? No. I haven't heard any. Well, I don't watch it.